Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Recovery Mental Health Clinic. My name is Zoe Clues, and I'm a hypnotherapist specialising in complex PTSD, anxiety and depression. And over to you, Juliet.
Hi, Zoe. Evening, everybody. My name is Juliet, and I'm a hypnotherapist, probably specialising in anxiety, but working with a wide array of problems.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anya Predojevic, and I work for the Stress Management Society International Wellbeing Insights as a Chief Magic Officer, a very fancy name for marketing manager. I'm also an occupational business psychologist and a yoga teacher, and I've been for the past 4 years working in the wellness industry, specializing in mindfulness and well-being, and just really I'm passionate about spreading the awareness on mental health and well-being in general.
Amazing. It's great to have you on here, Anya. It's lovely to meet you as well. Okay, so, let's have a little chat about what's going on just before we dive into the question. So I don't know what you guys have had coming up. People have been talking to you about, a lot of people, obviously I'm seeing a lot of clients every week, but people obviously talk to me on Twitter and things like that about things they've had coming up in the general mental health themes. We had Mental Health Awareness Week a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that I'm noticing is a phrase that Emma Kenny, the wonderful Emma Kenny, came up with, which is FOGO, which is fear of going out. In fact, one of the questions links to that actually, but what we're seeing is, obviously a lot of us we've been in for a long, long time, and it's almost like we've forgotten how to socialise, we've forgotten how to connect, we've forgotten how to relate. And I know that, Juliet, you and I covered this on another one of the clinics, didn't we, in ways some people felt more comfortable being in lockdown, and then coming out of lockdown they're feeling uncomfortable. Some people can't wait to come out. But it is something that I have been working with clients who have social anxiety on, just about easing themselves back out and into the world, because I think it's summer and I think it's really important we make the most of it. What are your thoughts or experiences on this?
Yeah, same, I think. Well, same. What I think is I've heard a lot this week is the weather. The weather being so bad and people wanting to get out and do things and not being able to, and actually feeling maybe a little bit kind of down in that it's so difficult to go abroad on holiday. And so people are wanting to holiday here, but then the weather is it's making that not quite so enjoyable. But social anxiety, definitely. And I'm really interested to hear ideas on what people should be going out and doing, to be honest. Certain clubs and groups and meetups haven't been going for a year, and I went to the gym this morning and I was speaking to someone who I see there regularly, and we were talking about some other people we used to see regularly who have decided not to renew their membership, and then other people who have joined recently. And so people are changing, like people's hobbies are changing, what they've always done has changed. And for people who are trying to put themselves out there, who have got through the past year and maybe not been sociable before, or have friendships have changed and they want to meet new people, what is there out there for people, and what can they do?
And I also think it's going to be a very, I feel like people don't really know how to behave now. They don't know what to expect from others. Like, do I hug a friend that I haven't seen for the past 3-6 months? Doesn't matter. Do I give them a kiss, or do I do the COVID hello? Like, people don't really know how to act anymore because we've been just deprived and isolated for so long from the social contact. I feel like there is that kind of worry and anxiety around that. Like, how do we interact with each other now when we are back, when the lockdowns are easing up? And I think what we're gonna see is that, we're gonna, same as we were adapting to lockdown and finding the ways to cope with lockdown, I feel like we're now gonna go back to finding the ways how we're gonna cope with everything easing up and going back to some kind of normality, and I think that's the main concern for many people, as many people are looking forward to go back to pubs, to clubs, to see friends, to have people at their house. But there is another group of people who are really, really anxious about all of this, who are not finding this easy, who actually maybe felt safer in isolation, and and the negative patterns of that, of social anxiety, actually went up, and now needing to go back to work or to whatever it is, they're gonna find it hard. And I feel like people really need to be mindful of that. We all need to be mindful of that we all had very different circumstances, even through the lockdown. And what we need to do is to be very mindful, open-minded, that everyone is different and that everyone will have a different way on approaching to come back actually from the lockdown to back to society.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think, again, I talk about compassion a lot, but I think, bringing compassion to yourself, if you do feel anxious about going out, or, compassion to others, and, might be just chomping at the bit, ready to go, but other people might need a bit more time to ease themselves back in. And I think it's a really important point you brought up, Anya, that, a lot of people don't know what to do. Do we hug? Can we hug? Can we do this? And it's all been very confusing, hasn't it? And it's still is actually. There's a lack of clarity on what we are meant to be doing and not doing right now. So that adds to it. And then if someone has social anxiety, then the anxiety about not following the rules or not doing the correct things socially is going to be amplified, because it's pretty straightforward. Before you give someone a kiss on the cheek, you might shake the hand where appropriate, might give them a hug where appropriate. But these are sometimes cues that people with social anxiety can struggle with anyway. And now, of course, it's added so much more to the mix, hasn't it, with the addition of rules and changes to the rules and guidelines. So, there's a lot to be discussed. We do have some questions that bring up these kind of things. So I think let's talk about the solutions in the questions. I'm going to dive straight in. We have one from somebody here who says, I watch your clinics every week, but this is the first time I've ever sent in a question, and I hope this question is okay to ask you all. My problem is this: I just don't have romantic relationships. I grew up in a cold home where mum and dad just worked all the time, and I could never display emotion. This was never outright said, but it always felt like it was frowned upon. I now feel really ashamed if I am emotional, and I think part of the reason I don't have a relationship is because I'm terrified of someone seeing that part of me. It actually felt better in lockdown, as I felt the peer pressure to be in a relationship lifted, as no one could go out. But now things are opening up, it feels like they are back. Any ideas on where to start, as I feel like a freak because all my friends date loads or have relationships, and I'm like the weird terminally single person. Okay, so the first thing I want to say here, there's a couple of points I want to pick up on. Yeah, of course, the environment that we grow up will always impact on our sort of ability to be intimate with somebody. So if you grew up in a home where, and there's actually one of the things you talk about is how not showing emotion was never stated clearly, oh, don't show emotions. People really usually say that kind of thing. It was just sort of frowned upon. It's often more powerful when things aren't said, but they're implied. It's something that we just pick up because we can't discuss it. If something's said, that we can question it, or we can argue against it, or we can challenge it, or we can ask why. If something isn't said but it's heavily implied, especially when you're small and you have the young and tender psyches, then the information kind of goes in and we just get this very strong message: it's not okay for me to show my feelings. And if we get the message, it's not okay for me to show my feelings, we get the message, it's not okay for us to be ourselves. And that's one of the most damaging things. Most therapy, I think, is all about allowing you to just be comfortable in your own skin. The ultimate goal, be comfortable in your own skin and have the message, I'm okay just as I am. Because that's what healthy parenting is. It's healthy mirroring back to that little child, that little baby, that little being, letting them know you are okay just as you are, and letting them from that place start to find out who they are. And when we grow up in a house where that is truncated or shut down, then we don't have the chance to explore. So you learn the message as well that it's not okay to be vulnerable, and we can't have intimate relationships without vulnerability. And vulnerability is terrifying. Brené Brown talks about it a lot, doesn't she? And intimacy is terrifying for all human beings, whether or not you've gone through a lot of trauma or not. It's still terrifying because we're showing somebody a part of ourselves that can be easily wounded, where our heart can be broken. So this response to relationships. There's such a thing as sort of sexual, emotional and social anorexia. So it doesn't just relate to an eating disorder. We can become sexually anorexic, emotionally anorexic, and socially anorexic, where we're just starving ourselves of those things that we really, really need. And again, it's a response. You grew up in a shutdown environment. There's only so many times we can reach out to mummy and daddy to try and get a need met, and that need not be met before it's too painful for us to keep asking. So then we stop asking, and so then we shut down. And when we shut down, because the subconscious doesn't understand time, it keeps on shutting down. It keeps us shut down, and then it shuts out everything. You can't shut off one. You can't numb out, or if you like, or shut down in one area. You can't just choose which bits to truncate, if you like. You know, you shut down one area, you shut down the other. So you shut down the painful stuff, you shut down joy as well. So I think there's something to be said about exploring here, if you haven't already, your childhood. Take the pressures off yourself, I would say, around dating. I think the most important thing is, I think, always deal with the crocodile closest to the boat. And what's really going on here is that it's important for you to be able to let yourself start feeling. Know that, you know, you hear this thing, oh, they don't do feelings, or my dad didn't do feelings. We all do feelings. We are human beings. That's what we do. We do feelings. If we haven't done them, it's because we've shut down. So the work I think to do here is about looking about how you shut down to what was a cold environment, and how to sort of unthaw and unfreeze and learn to reconnect. It sounds like you have friendships, so that's good. You're obviously able to connect on that level. So the next piece is about being really kind to yourself. Take the pressure off yourself about being single. It doesn't matter how old you are. We can fall in love at any age, and and have a good relationship. I understand as a woman, at a certain age, and you want children, then that's something you really must take in mind, but take into account. But of course, take the pressure off yourself at the moment, if you can, around having to have a relationship. The most important thing to do is start getting in touch with your feelings, and probably grieving some of the lack of needs, actually, that you had met when you were small. And I understand how lockdown made it easier, but, you know, coming out of lockdown is a good thing. You healing yourself and getting in contact with how you really feel is a good thing, and ultimately you being intimate with somebody and having a good relationship is a good thing. So I'm going to encourage growth in all those areas. Does anybody else? Well, I'll hand over to Juliet and Anya. I've probably got some other points there too.
I can't speak properly today. I love what you said about healthy parenting. Mm-hmm. It's completely irrelevant to the question, but I think it is so relevant to parents out there. You know, there's this whole thing about being a good enough parent. And I think you nailed it, really, when you said healthy parenting. I can't remember how you phrased it, but
healthy mirroring. So it's mirroring back to the kid.
That, exactly. That is all someone needs to do, isn't it? And if you do that, I think you're excelling at parenting, because allowing children to be themselves is really challenging, incredibly challenging, when their behavior might not conform or be conform. Again, my words are gone. They might not be conforming to society. So I think that is absolutely brilliant. Back to the question though. So authenticity, again, what you said about being yourself, being authentic, I think is really important. There's just one thing that kind of, I don't know that you did necessarily cover, and that is wondering whether this person actually wants to date, or whether they just feel uncomfortable because all of their friends are dating.
Yeah, I don't know either from the question.
Totally agree. She did mention social pressure, and I think that's exactly the point, that, you know, we come to the point of life where we think we need to have some things accomplished because there is a certain social pressure of having a family, having a child, having a marriage. You know, that we see these things as accomplishments, we see these things as value to ourselves, that, you know, we kind of affirm the value of ourselves through having these things accomplished, you know, which absolutely are nonsense. Like, we are now meant to be married and have children and, you know, have that kind of relationship. Like, we are all different individuals, you know, we are individuals with different needs, and not to encourage that, oh no, you shouldn't, or, you know, if you have a social anxiety, obviously you need to work on it. but you know, don't compare yourself to others and what others have, because that's a deep, you know, rabbit hole you're entering. And
yeah, I think maybe this person could do with finding their own purpose, and aligning and making sure they just align with their purpose. And exactly like you're saying, you're not comparing. Having said that, maybe they do want a relationship, and then Zoe, all of your, you know, your points totally
it's all
agree
relevant,
with.
because there'll be somebody listening that it compares to all of it. I think, yes,
Yeah,
you do want a relationship. I think the most, you know, it's always, it's cliche, isn't it? But cliches are cliches because they're true, but it always starts with you having a nice relationship with yourself. And the most important thing is, you know, give yourself permission to have feelings as a human being. You've got to grieve, rage, scream, kick off, cry, you know, feel sad, ashamed, happy. You know, we've got to allow ourselves the full spectrum of emotions. We've all got them. And expecting yourself not to have any, it's, you know, that's the first part of the relationship healing, isn't it, with yourself?
Totally.
Definitely. Okay, good. I'm going to hit over to this one now. One of you ladies can ask. This is what we were discussing in the beginning. Thank you for your time, everybody. I know that lockdown is over for now, but I'm feeling really anxious about going out still. That's the FOGO. So it's FOMO, now it's FOGO. I feel like I've forgotten how to socialise. Any tips for easing myself back in? I'll hand over to you two for these.
Juliet, I actually draw some tips, but please feel free to.
No, you go.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like had a thought about it, because we are thinking in Stress Management Society, like how can we support our audience in month of June? And, you know, me and Neil, we talked about it, and we really want to support people to transition from lockdown to coming back to social circles, to their work environment, you know, just being surrounded with other people. And, you know, I already mentioned this, but like first is, you know, find your own pace, you know, take time. You don't need to rush into anything. Like that would be a first tip, I think. You know, it's just, we all have different needs, and we all experience the lockdown differently. Some thrived, some didn't. And, you know, it's really, again, that going back to that, not comparing yourself to how others are doing and feeling that pressure that you need to do certain things in certain way. You know, you need to find the way that works for you, and for you to be comfortable with whatever that is. It's really, really important, I think. And then, you know, also focus on what is within your control. Like, what can you control? You know, there are certain things that you can control, and that's like what you eat, what you do, what you know, how you react to the situations, what you buy. And all these things are complementing our, you know, overall well-being, our, you know, our health. And it's, if you're not feeling confident enough to go straight in, or, you know, what are the things that you can control? Is it maybe meeting one friend, and then agreeing on the time, space, and, you know, finding again the way that works for you. So just realizing as well that you are in control, that you have the choice to choose, speaking openly to your workplace as well, you know, saying, I'm not comfortable going back in the office and being surrounded with people. Can we, you know, make some amendments or changes for me? You know, I think organizations are going to be more and more aware of it, and they will need to adapt to the people's needs, because, you know, we've been living in 15 months of really tough time, you know, it's been tough. Feel free to jump in, Juliet, or
No,
like there is something to add on these tips. And then, you know, again, to prioritize your well-being, you know, looking at all those 5 aspects which we talked through mental health, you know, the mental, the physical, social, emotional, and spiritual, you know, just getting in touch with those aspects of your well-being and seeing what you need, and realizing, taking time for yourself to really understood what is that you need and what feels good for you. If it doesn't feel good to go in a pub and meet friends, don't. But then again, you don't really want to stay, you know, like how to explain, like you know, away from everything. You've been away for way too long, and that had definitely affected your mental health and well-being. There is no doubt about it. So, you know, and that's where my next tip would come is, you know, to set yourself a little challenge every day, you know, and build on that challenge. So to kind of move forward. So it could be, this could be very minor, very little. Like if you, it depends obviously how unwell or well you are. If you are really struggling to get out of bed or even have a shower, maybe a challenge for that day would be to have a shower or to go out for a walk for 5 minutes. If you are in much better state, but then you are still struggling of going out or going to the shop or maybe meeting someone, set a little challenge that will kind of move you forward from there. And then take a note, journal, talk about in your journal to your friends over, you know, we are all digitally connected now. So how that makes you feel, what kind of anxieties are coming up, what kind of worries. I think understanding where the worries come, what are we scared of? It's a very fundamental thing to understand in order to move on. Like, you know, people are anxious, feeling worried, but about what? What is exactly that you are anxious? What is exactly that you're scared of?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of?
I think they're really great points, and I think it's very much in line with how I think about it in terms of self-care. Let yourself do things really slowly. Loads of people got into really bad habits, for example, in lockdown. You know, it's like eating rubbish, drinking too much, and you don't go from there to like just, you know, totally sobbing out to kind of like getting up at 6 a.m. running for 10k and drinking green juice. You're going to eat, you know, and if you do this, like some sort of person, maybe some sort of personality change overnight, which doesn't usually happen without some sort of extreme reason. But you're going to have to ease yourself into something, and I think ease is very much the word here. It's about easing yourself and supporting yourself. And you know, I think that you got a really good balance with what you said, Anya, as well. It's kind of like, you know, you want to check in with yourself whether you want to do it, but again, you want to check in. And you know, it's really important that we don't. There's a really good it's actually a hypnosis script which I love. I don't remember the exact script, but it's about horses and electric fences, and it's about how you create these electric fences with these horses in the field, and these electric fences stay for like a year or something like that, and the horses just stay within the perimeter of the electric fences. Now you take those electric fences away and the horses just continue living within that perimeter and they never go any further. And that's something I think we need to be aware of with what's happened with lockdown. You know, get so used to living kind of a hermetic kind of life that you can start to be scared of venturing out. And actually it's really important for our nervous systems that we connect, that we regulate with others, that we co-regulate. And I think the most important thing is to notice that you're scared and support yourself for being scared. So you might feel scared about going to the pub, you might feel scared about, so build it up slowly. There's no rush, there's no fire, you know, there's no emergency, but it is important for us to socially interact in healthy ways. And someone's social interaction might be going to a rave, someone else's might be coffee with a friend. Neither are wrong or right, you know, we have levels of extroversion, introversion, right? So work out what's right for you. I think it's not important not to let fear rule your life. We've all been subject to so much fear. So notice, is there a bit of a desire? You know, would I like to see a friend? Would it be really nice? If I knew that it was totally safe, would I go? That's a good way of finding out whether it's desire or a fear. Good question to ask yourself. What about you, Juliet? Do you want to add anything about easing yourself back in?
No, I think, I mean, anxiety in general, it's always good to remain in the present moment and ask yourself, am I safe? Right now, am I safe?
Yeah.
And even if you have to do that every minute after minute after minute, to just remain in that present moment, then, you know, that's worth a try as well. And eventually it becomes less repetitive. You know, maybe every hour you're saying, am I safe right now? But just keeping in the present moment, because most of us, of course, there are exceptions, and if you're not safe right now, then please seek support. But most of us are safe right now. COVID's still out there, but so is a lot of other stuff. But we are safe right in this moment. We're safe. We're fine. You're safe. You're fine. And continuously coming back to that present moment is really helpful.
I love that, Juliet. It's one of I use that all the time. Right now, right here in the present moment, I'm safe. Because we're over there, aren't we? You know,
yep,
anxiety,
totally.
your depression's in the past. I always think, you know, it's
yes.
both of those things. Their responses. Okay, wonderful. I hope that helps you, and we'd encourage you to get out and enjoy this glorious weather that we're having. I was in Cornwall this weekend. It just literally gale force winds and driving rain and sleet the whole weekend.
That's Cornwall though, isn't it? That's my experience of Cornwall as well.
I don't know. I've been there before and it's really sunny. I heard the weather was nice down there, but you know, I think it's just everywhere. Okay, so we have a question here. Sometime after the first lockdown first hit, I had a sense of anxiety, which I knew 100% was related to the pandemic. I'm now finding it difficult to distinguish what is normal tiredness, my usual anxiety, or is it the long effects of lockdown? So I would love to know your thoughts on this. I worked through it all as I'm admin based in the NHS. I've worked through it all as an admin based in the NHS. 2 of my work friends are no longer at work. My fiance has been working a lot of late shifts. Not many people about in our city centre now, so all this leaves me feeling lonely and vulnerable travelling and quite sad. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, Juliet, over to you.
Well, there's a few things to pick out. NHS worker, tired probably, I would imagine. Well, is tired, but tired from work. I don't know what the situation is with kind of having been able to take annual leave, whether this person's been able to do that. Do we know if it's a female or male? She,
I think it sounds like I'm assuming it's a female for some reason, but I don't know.
Okay, if they have been able to take annual leave, have they actually gone away and taken annual leave from home and the chores of home and everything as well? So tiredness just from a year of hard work. The other thing I would say, now I'm no nutritional therapist, but vitamin D. And other supplements as well, making sure that this person is getting everything, because we're at the end of winter. So if I believe we should all be taking vitamin D anyway. Coming towards the end of winter, I mean, maybe not here in Spain, but here in the UK, if you've had, we had an amazing summer, didn't we, last year? And we all topped up on our vitamin D and it was fantastic. But then we've hit winter, and maybe, as I said, I'm no nutritional therapist. I don't know the ins and outs from an expert point of view. But if we've gone through winter and used up all of those resources that we built up in the summer, we're now we should be coming into summer again, shouldn't we? But it hasn't really hit here. And so if you've kind of used up all those resources, your body's expecting that sun again, that vitamin D. So I think that's something to take into account. Maybe just a one-off appointment with a nutritional therapist to make sure nutrition is on point. That's the things that are in my mind right now.
Yeah, that's good. They're really good points. It's kind of, definitely, making sure that you're looked after in that way. I'd also say about the anxiety, what we can start to do, we can get really worried about what's what, and sometimes we just don't know. So you've said, I had a sense of anxiety you knew was related to the pandemic. Yeah, sometimes when we know what we're anxious about, it almost provides a bit of relief from the anxiety. We're like, okay, this is the anxiety, now it's related to this. When this is eased, then it will ease, so it kind of, there's a sort of sense of progression that we can follow. However, now I find it hard to distinguish what is normal time as my usual anxiety, or is it the long effects of lockdowns? Well, I suppose I'd say to you, I don't know. First of all, you might not know, and you might not ever know. It's probably a bit of everything, and it actually doesn't actually matter. Sometimes we just feel anxious and tired and rubbish. I mean, it sounds like, as Juliet highlighted, you need a rest, you need a break of some kind. Sometimes a change is as good as a rest. So if you can't get a rest, maybe there's a change in some way, go somewhere new for the weekend. It's kind of practical suggestions. But also, I think, once again, I'll say the same thing. I say this all the time, but it's true. It doesn't really matter what you're anxious about. What matters is how you treat yourself when you have the anxiety. So it sounds like you really need to up your self-care, as Juliet's suggestion, maybe look at the nutrition. That's a form of self-care. Sounds like there's a lot of a lot of drudge and trudge and difficulty to deal with. Two of your work friends are no longer there. You've lost some connection, you've lost some co-regulation. Your fiance has been working a lot of late shift, you don't have that support. So all your sort of touchstones and comforts and connections have been compromised or removed, on top of, like, all these series of lockdowns, which has really affected us in that way. And yeah, you look at city centres and they do seem sad and empty and lonely, and can feel a bit dystopian, can't it? I know in January when I was walking through London, I was like, is there anyone here apart from me? For like 28 days later or something, it was like nobody around, and it does feel low mood. I do understand that. So all of you leave you feeling lonely and vulnerable and travelling. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that, and quite sad. So it sounds like you need a massive hug, to be honest. It sounds like you need as much connection, warmth, laughter, nature, kind of upcycling kind of activities, if you like. So exercise, laughter, it sounds like you've gone into a bit of that sort of freeze response, which is that kind of fed up, is there any point to this, and low, and then a bit of flight response with the anxiety. So you need sort of soothing and nurturing and uplifting. So I'd sit there and make a list of all the things that make you feel good, that you can do, that you can receive to really feed and look after your nervous system right now, and get as much rest as you can. And I really wouldn't worry about what's tiredness, what percentage is anxiety, and what the ratios are. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you treat yourself as well as you would someone that you're responsible for looking after really well. And ask yourself what it is that you need, and ask yourself maybe what's stopping you from resting. I know you've got to work, obviously, but we work within the parameters of what we can. So where can you rest? Weekends or the evenings you have off? If your fiance is not around, what can you do instead to really comfort and look after yourself? And how can you rebuild some connections? It just sounds like you need a lot of soothing and comforting and self-parenting, really. Do you want to add anything to that, Anya?
No, I think you both covered it really well. And I think what would I just say is, like, it's amazing that, all these questions are coming through, and I feel that's the first step towards taking action, and looking after yourself. And, this person just acknowledging that that she's feeling or he is feeling anxious and have these things, it's amazing. Well done, because we go feeling like this, not acknowledging, and then, then the downhill starts, and we roll until we collapse completely, and destroy ourselves completely. So picking up on these little things. I'm not really feeling okay. I don't know if it's lockdown, I don't know if it's anxiety, I don't know, but I'm not okay. Good. And I feel like this is what we need to talk about. Like, it's okay not to be okay, which we always say. Feeling bad, you shouldn't feel bad for feeling bad. It's, we've been living in crazy times for the past 15 months, and feeling like this, it's absolutely not unusual. We all been there. I certainly have. And I'm a yoga teacher, I practice mindfulness, I meditate, I take extremely good care of myself, and I still had really low days. But it's just really to recognize when those low days are, do you have more of those low days or not? Like, are they becoming, is your anxiety taking over your life, and you really can't do anything, that you would usually do, and you are less motivated, and you don't want to interact with anyone, or, your sleep pattern changes, your eating habits change, like seeing all these things, and then, okay, then I really need to look for more help, and I would highly encourage you do. But if you just feel like you have low moods during the day, our mood through the day fluctuates constantly. We can encounter, I don't know, whatever, and it changes our mood. But if we stay in that low mood for prolonged times, for the prolonged period, then yeah, we need to take some action of actually what we can do in order to change that. I don't think this person has any kind of disorder or anything like that as an anxiety, but it's really good that it's bringing their attention to it and trying to find the solutions to bring their mood up. And I think we all need to do that because we've been for way too long
Yeah, really good points, and I agree. I think it's really good to get these things early and just notice. And obviously, if there's persistent low mood, despite making a change to self-care and everything else, then you need to look at it again and look at it more seriously. But it sounds like you just need a lot of TLC. That's my first take from what you've said. Okay, so we've got a question about body dysmorphia disorder. So I have struggled with body dysmorphia disorder, sort of abbreviated to BDD. On and off, but sometimes it goes away. For example, when I've been in the new part of a relationship, but for the last 4 months, it's been horrific. I've had to cover all the mirrors in my house and it's getting worse. It used to be that I had to spend hours doing my makeup to make sure it was perfect, but now I can't even look at myself. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I have it because no one in my family has it. I'm not sure whether these things are genetic. But one of my friends thinks it is linked to sexual abuse that I suffered when I was younger. To me, that doesn't make any sense, though, because it was over 30 years ago. Can you help? Juliet, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I'm sure the sexual abuse has had an effect. I think that the friend is probably right, and that's worth exploring, definitely. Yeah, just something that I picked up on. This person doesn't experience the feeling during the early part of a relationship for whatever reason. Maybe that's reassurance from the new partner. However, I'm guessing as a result of lockdown, there may be either they're in a long-term relationship and so past that point, or excuse me, or hasn't actually had a relationship for the past year. And if there hasn't been a relationship for the past year, maybe it's just escalating and escalating and escalating. I think therapy. I mean, it's quite it's
big, isn't it?
Serious, really. It's a big thing, particularly with the sexual abuse involved. I think it takes more. I don't think I can give the answers sat here. It would certainly be something to explore in depth with someone experienced.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it needs to be contained within those sessions. What I will say to you about this is, I work with a lot of sexual trauma, so body dysmorphia disorder is. I always talk about this. Carl Jung says all symptoms, if you like, have their reasons and legitimate suffering. So here you are with this BDD. The BDD I would see as a symptom. It's a response to trauma. I work a lot with trauma, and you can't go through something like what you've gone through. It doesn't matter whether it happened 30 years ago. There's no time in the subconscious. It could have happened a second ago as far as it's concerned. It doesn't know that it's over. It doesn't know that it's not happening. Now, the BDD is a response. So if something awful happens to our body, especially when we're young or when we're small, then one of the responses can be to hate on our body. Because of what happened to it. So it's a common underlying cause, in my experience, of BDD. So I think your friend is absolutely right. You do need to get the right support with that. You do. It's not something you can talk to your friends about or hope will go away. I think you need to work with therapists, probably one that specialises in trauma and also has experience of working with BDD, because the symptoms are really strong. I work with BDD too, and people cover mirrors, stop going out, spend hours and hours perfecting makeup. You can get addicted to plastic surgery, all sorts of the sort of offshoots, if you like, and in a subconscious attempt to resolve what's really, in a conscious attempt to resolve really what is the subconscious problem, which is really old wounding. So you've said, can we help? Well, we can help. We can talk about it, but I think it's really important that we're really super responsible here, and we encourage you to get therapy to help with that. It's severe trauma, and severe trauma always requires really good support. Take your time finding the right therapist, talk to them, make sure you feel comfortable with them, and know that you can recover from BDD. People do recover from BDD all the time. It's not instant. You don't suddenly wake up and love how you look, but the volume on the sort of self-hatred and the self-criticism goes down. I think BDD is when the persecutory superego, which is always born of trauma, starts attacking some part of you. It could attack your voice, it could attack your career success or whatever. It could attack your choice in relationships. It could attack in the form of anxiety or depression. With you, the wounding has chosen to focus on your body, so you need treatment in both of those areas. That's what I'd say for you there. Do you want to add anything to that, Anya?
No, I think you completely covered it. And
okay, good. Yeah, so we're just going to encourage you to really, really look after yourself with that. And yeah, again, people always say this to me in clinic. They're like, oh, you know, this happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. And, you know, I'm sure you have the same experience, Felix. I know you're a hypnotherapist as well. There's no time in the subconscious, is there?
Yeah, you know, people really think that it shouldn't matter, and also this feeling really that it was normal or it's okay, and actually it's not. It might have been your normal,
yeah,
in that moment, but I mean, I don't like the word normal, so you know, let's just say it's not okay. Sexual abuse isn't okay, and just because it was your normal, it doesn't mean that it was okay, and it should have no effect.
Yeah, lots of, you know, anybody presenting with trauma always presents, they've always minimized it because it's a coping mechanism, and it's often been normalized because it was normalized when you grew up. You didn't know anything else. Normal doesn't mean healthy.
Yeah,
you know, that's one of the important things. I think it's one of the things we've seen this year. New normal, old normal. This is like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's unhealthy and in all of that. You know, normal often isn't healthy. It doesn't mean that it's good. You know, the goal should be, people say to me, I just want you to make me normal. And I said, well, I don't make you anything. The goal is always to be healthy, not normal. I'm not really sure what normal is, but a lot of the time it's used as an excuse for unhealthy things to occur, I think.
And I just think you know, there is a misconception of like time heals. It doesn't. You need to work on your trauma.
Really good point.
You know, like time doesn't heal anything. Like, you know, you just bury it deeper and deeper and deeper, and it keeps coming up, and you know, in different ways that you don't even realize where is it coming from. You're completely disconnected because you completely forgot about it, and it's not in your consciousness, and you know, it's subconsciously is stopping you from, you know, doing whatever you need to do and achieve your full potential because there is that emotional block inside you. So 30 years gone, doesn't matter. It affects still.
So true. I think it's such a good point. I think, you know, I think time heals if, okay, you have a very relationship breakup, you sort of take time and you move on, and, you know, but if something's happened to you as a kid, it just stays lodged in your psyche until you do the work to release it. We have grief, rage, pain, sadness, all sorts of stuff in our system that we didn't even know was there, you know. The subconscious is a storehouse, isn't it? It's an absolute storehouse for all of this stuff. It really is. So, yeah, I think it's really good points. So that's the end of the questions for now. We will be back next week. Do either of you ladies have any messages to anybody for the coming week about getting back out there, enjoying yourselves, letting life back into your life, anything like that?
Yeah, I would just say, like, take time for, you know, to acknowledge what are your needs, and, you know, go from the place of love rather than fear, you know, love towards yourself, towards your family, and don't judge. I feel as well it's going to be lots of, because we are coming back to the social circle, to interacting with others. Don't worry how other people are handling their own. We all have things in our head that we are dealing with, so you don't know, you know, circumstances of each person. So, you know, move with compassion and kindness, and I think really we need that more than ever now, coming back from lockdown into kind of new normal, which I hate new normal. It's so ridiculous.
I hate they're perfect as well. Perfect. That really annoys me, that one.
So yeah, that's me.
Don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be normal. Just do the best things for yourself. Look after yourself. Try and come to from a place of kindness. Be gentle with yourself. It's always the key to healing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Have a good week. Enjoy the rain outdoors and pubs. And we will look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.